Hi, my name is Noshima Darden-Tabb, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager at UNC for our COVID-related research. And today I have with me Dr. Michelle Floris-Moore, who is the Associate Professor of Medicine in the Division of Infectious Diseases and Director of the UNC ID Fellowship Training Program. And today we would just like to spend a few minutes talking with you about the importance of clinical trial participation for African Americans and some of the reasons why we should be participating. So the first question that I would like to ask Dr. Floris-Moore is what exactly is a clinical trial and what does phase 3 mean?
So a clinical trial is a type of research study that's done in humans, and it's aimed at evaluating a new treatment or intervention, like a drug or a vaccine. And it's the main way that researchers find out if a new intervention is safe and effective in people. And so for the second part of your question, a phase 3 trial is really the third step in testing a new vaccine, drug, or other treatment in humans. So drugs or treatments that come to a phase 3 trial have already gone through preclinical investigation. They then go through a phase 1 trial that includes only a small number of people and aims to find the safest dose of a new vaccine or drug. That is the dose that has the least risk for side effects. And then the phase 2 trial tests the safety and effectiveness of that dose of the treatment. And a phase 3 clinical trial is done to confirm and expand on prior research in order to better understand the safety and effectiveness in a larger number of people.
Okay, awesome. So why are clinical trials so important anyway, especially when it comes to COVID-19?
Well, clinical trials are really the best tool that we have to find an effective vaccine to protect people against the SARS-CoV-2 virus. That's the virus that causes COVID-19. And also to find new and better drugs and interventions to treat people who do have COVID-19. All of us are at risk for being infected with the coronavirus. The virus that causes COVID-19 has really disproportionately affected Hispanic or Latino populations and African Americans in North Carolina and nationally. For example, African Americans make up 13% of the US population, but 21% of deaths from COVID-19. In North Carolina, in our state here, African Americans are 22% of the state population, currently represent 23% of all COVID-19 cases for which we have data on race and ethnicity, but we account for 30% of all COVID-19 deaths. Out of over 194,000 people who have had COVID-19 in North Carolina thus far, almost 45,000 are African Americans, and more than 1,000 African Americans have died from COVID-19 in North Carolina as of September 28th, is the data that we have today.
Wow, wow. So why are African Americans disproportionately affected?
You know, one of the reasons is that we are overrepresented in occupations considered essential, such as food manufacturing, so things like the poultry plants and other food manufacturing plants, food service, healthcare, including home health and nursing homes. And people in those jobs often cannot work from home. And so we are in frequent contact with the public while doing our jobs, and we are therefore at higher risk for contracting the virus that causes COVID-19.
Wow, so why is it important for us to actually participate in some of the COVID-related studies?
So, you know, we have underlying health conditions that can put us at risk for more severe COVID disease, such as diabetes, hypertension, chronic lung disease, chronic heart disease. And so we're more likely to have severe illness if we get COVID-19. 45% of African Americans in North Carolina have at least one of the health conditions that would put us at risk for more severe COVID-19. And so because we are disproportionately affected by this virus and this disease, the medical community wants to make sure that any new treatments or interventions for COVID-19 are made available via studies to all people, including African Americans. And we also want to make sure that vaccines or treatments are safe and effective in the African American population. And the only way to know that is for us to ensure that people from the African American community are equally represented in COVID-19 studies for new interventions, including vaccines or drugs or other treatments.
So one of the questions that I get a lot is it safe to participate in a clinical trial, particularly the
No,
COVID clinical trials?
it really is. First, the only interventions and treatments that have been shown to be safe in earlier phases of the studies can make it to a phase 3 clinical trial. So like I explained earlier, the drug or vaccine or other intervention would have gone through several phases of trial before it gets to a phase 3 clinical trial where we're administering it to large numbers of people. Secondly, clinical trial participants have their health monitored very closely. So in order for us to say that the drug is safe or effective, we have to collect all the data and monitor people really closely to make sure that if they're having any side effects from these drugs or treatments, that we catch them early and prevent larger numbers of people from being exposed to those side effects. And third, and I would say most importantly, it is always voluntary. Participation in any clinical trial is completely voluntary. So if the participant has a concern about the clinical trial, even if we have not found from the scientific standpoint a signal that says something, that adverse events are happening, that participant can always withdraw, even if they simply get tired of coming to study visits, or they don't have the time to participate, or they become worried about something that they've seen in the news. They can simply stop participating in the trial.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because that is another question that I get sometimes, is people being concerned about, once they sign up, do they have to continue throughout the study?
They never do. They can always, any clinical trial participant can leave at any time without incurring any penalty.
Okay, so people seeing this video, like, why should they consider participating in a COVID-related clinical trial?
You know, we should consider participating if able, to do it for our community, for our family members, for the people we care about. We need vaccines against COVID-19. We need new treatments to save lives and decrease the spread of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And only when we have those things in place will we be able to return to a normal way of life, so that we can send our children back to school, get back to work, get back to spending time with our families and friends again. Because in order for us to feel safe with the presence of this virus in the community, we have to have the information we need, and we have to develop the vaccines and the treatments that will be effective.
Thank you so much for that. You've certainly enlightened me today and gave a better perspective of some of the needs and why we should definitely consider participating in clinical trials and some of the impacts within the African American community. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.